Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Game Logic from the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube, one of the co-hosts of the Enough to Keep Going weekly games podcast here on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube. Back with another episode. This is episode number 388 for the 1st of June, 2025. Here with me, as always, I have my stalwart partner in crime, Mr. Towmaster99. How you doing, Tow?
I'm doing well. It's good to be back after a slight hiatus.
Very cool, very cool. And if we do have anyone in the chat tonight, I'm working with a new mic, and when I first turned this thing on, I nearly blew my eardrums out. So if it is too loud, please let me know. I'll double check it on the live stream once we get some other people on the mic talking. But we have no news stories, no gameplay stories in segment one for tonight. Neither one of us has really been playing anything new or kind of in the zeitgeist, or maybe just hasn't had a ton of time to play. I have predominantly been playing Call of Duty Black Ops 6, but I didn't feel that should go in segment one tonight, and there's really not a ton to report on for season 4, so we'll talk about that a little bit in segment 3. So without much further ado, let's get to it, and let's get right to the news. And of course, in addition to all of the chicanery with getting the show started tonight, I have none of the news stories pulled up on my feed. So
no worries. Yeah, there's a couple of Game Pass games while you're getting that stuff up that I actually played, but I didn't play like all too much of them, so that's why I didn't report on them this week. So maybe next week, if I'm able to play a little bit more, I'll report back.
Yeah, and a few of my games, I mean, like I said, I didn't really feel qualified putting Black Ops 6 in as the main news story tonight, or as the main segment 1 story tonight, and a couple of other things, same as you. I have played them, but I haven't spent a ton of time putting into them as much as I might normally do. So the first news story in the rundown tonight, this news story over on Eurogamer by Ed Nightingale. Claire Obscure Expedition 33 reaches a fitting sales milestone. Claire Obscure Expedition 33 has now sold 3.3 million copies since its release last month. On its first day, the game sold 500,000 copies. Then, within 3 days, the game had hit 1 million copies sold. Now, 33 days after its release, the game has reached 3.3 million sales across PC and console. We couldn't make that up, reads a social post sharing the news. It's not only a fitting sales milestone for the game, but a huge debut success for the studio. Even French President Macron has congratulated the team. Now, potential cheekiness aside, with this news report, is it likely to be realistic that they just happen to hit 3.3 million sales on 33 days after release? Maybe. And so I saw a few detractions about, and I'm like, okay, I don't know that really matters or that it's really important. What's important is that it's a small studio making their first game, making an incredibly ambitious game, and it's great that it is sold, along the lines of the numbers that we heard, being touted for Assassin's Creed Shadows, which, not to take anything away from Assassin's Creed Shadows, that is also a great success story, when we have things going on in the industry, like it's not in the news rundown, but actually just before we went live this afternoon, People Can Fly, the studio behind Painkiller and supposedly helping out with Gears of War E-Day, announced that they have to do a round of layoffs because they haven't gotten funding from a third-party publisher for one of their unannounced titles yet. So, there's lots of bad news in the industry going around, and it's great when things happen that we can celebrate these successes. Tao, any thoughts or comments on this news story?
I just had a quick question. I can't remember. Were they self-published or did they have a bigger publisher?
They did have a bigger publisher. So,
okay.
I mean, I think, again, I think there's a lot of negativity around trying to set the story straight on, what is the size of the studio and how many people actually worked on the game, and how many of the devs are actually experienced versus not. I mean, I guess those things are pertinent in terms of just keeping our facts straight. It was kind of reported at the outset that a bulk of the team were former Ubisoft developers, and that's not true. Like the top 2 or 3 people are former Ubisoft devs, and I believe came out of Ubisoft Montreal, I think. And so came out of the Assassin's Creed shop. Most of the rest of the team is relatively inexperienced. The studio size, the actual employee size of the studio, is about 33 people. It's probably somewhere between 33 and 50 now. And so it's a very small studio, but the total number of people who worked on the game is larger than 33. You look at the voice acting and the mocap, and it's obvious that a studio of this size, that there's no way that they would have the funding to hire Charlie Cox to do voice acting. Right? Like, while he's literally in the middle has been, would have been in the middle of filming Daredevil season 3 while this was going on. So they had a backer, they had a publisher, they had, people. I mean, you look at the soundstage videos that have been posted for a while now, about the for the orchestral recording sessions. It's quite clear that this company was not footing the bill for things like that. And so, yes, yay, verily, they absolutely had some help. But securing funding from a third-party publisher, you have to be successful to do that, right? You have to go make a pitch, and you have to get somebody behind your game to do it. We've heard numerous times of studios of the size, right, or smaller, going and making a pitch, and the game being passed on, right, by multiple publishers before it finally gets picked up. So I don't know that anything should be taken away from them for, and I know that's not what you're saying, but again, that's just part of the dialogue that I've seen online. So this is clearly a game that's definitely vying for, and I don't like to talk about game of the year before December, but its name is being mentioned in those rings, not just amongst the fandoms, but amongst the journalists, and a lot of the industry people who will be voting, right, in those various award shows. Media at the Game Awards, and then industry members who will be voting at things like DICE, and then other members of the artistic academies and stuff who will be voting on these things at the BAFTAs. So
yeah, I'm looking up. It's Kepler Interactive is their publisher, so not like a huge publisher. And they've done like Sifu. They've published Sifu, Pacific Drive, Flintlock, which I think just came out last year. They're publishing Rematch, which is like a big, seems to be a pretty big kind of like arcadey soccer game that's been getting a lot of good reviews. So yeah, it's not like a huge studio, and that's good. And the reason I was asking is because 3.3 million sold is a huge number. But if you're looking like at these other big publishers, they might not think that sometimes, as we've seen in the past with like other games that have come out and maybe come under like a little less than 3.3, but still it's like not a huge deal. But I think for such a small company, especially, well, relatively speaking, it's a great thing that they can celebrate something like this. So it's kind of refreshing to see from these past few years where you see that number and it's just like, it's not good enough. So, we're closing the studio, or, we're going to, try something else, go live service or something like that. So it's kind of nice to see that.
Yeah. And I think part of the, friction, right, about these numbers have been, sometimes they're sales numbers, sometimes they're engagement numbers. There are reasons to be, I hate to be what some may consider unfair, but I'm just going to be pointed about it. When Assassin's Creed says, "Hey, we got 3.3 million players," I think that that's significant because Assassin's Creed has been a franchise that's struggled, right, in past years, and there's a lot of nickel backing that goes on. There's a lot of, this franchise isn't that successful, and I'm like, okay, like those open world Ubisoft games, Assassin's Creed games that we like to drag all the time, sold incredibly well and had huge player numbers, right? And continue to sell well. People still buy Valhalla and Origins and Odyssey. And it's just a lot of kind of revisionist history that goes on about revisiting those games. Mirage didn't sell right in those numbers, and it did sell somewhere in, I think, in the single digit millions of numbers. But regardless, right, that franchise has struggled, and there was a lot of negativity around Assassin's Creed Shadows and expectations of what it was going to do. So when it announces, hey, we've got 3 million players, that to me is still significant, right, for a franchise that has struggled with a publisher who has been struggling, right? I'm just gonna, say, and some people may feel it's unfair, but like when Forza Horizon 5 says, we've got 18 million players, I'm like, okay, that's driven by Game Pass, and we see the engagement numbers and we see the playtime numbers, and we know that the reality is that the demographic of the user base, right, for people who are participating in Game Pass encourages a lot of toe dipping, right? People who check games out. And so that saying that title has 18 million players to me is not as impactful, right? As saying that about Assassin's Creed, or saying that about Expedition 33 had these been engagement numbers. So I think engagement numbers and sale numbers scale based on what were the projections. If a Game Pass game engages a huge number of players for a game that is out of the mainstream and quirky, so like South of Midnight, when it reports engagement numbers, I don't say anything about those engagement numbers. It is a non-mainstream quirky game that people didn't have a lot of high expectations for. And so what those engagement numbers say, I think, says a thing, right? But again, that's different than if I say engagement numbers on Starfield or Forza Horizon or or something that's more mainstream like that. And I think a lot of that is causing a lot of these numbers count, but these numbers don't, right? And unfortunately, there's a high signal to noise ratio when people are making those arguments on the basis of fandom versus when people are making those arguments on the basis of business and market impact. Anything else on that topic, Tal?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, let's move on. Of course, I spent a lot of angsty time before the show making banners at the last minute and then not showing them on the screen. So news story number 2 over on Rock, Paper, Shotgun. This news story by Edwin Evans Thurwell. Cyberpunk 2077 sequel is now Cyberpunk 2 and is therefore about burial mounds, bows, and pottery. Cyberpunk 2077 sequel has shed its Project Orion codename and will now be known as Cyberpunk 2. CD Projekt revealed the name change in their latest earnings result, according to which the new Cyberpunk RPG has just entered pre-production. Roughly defined, the point in the game's gestation when designers, artists, programmers, and so forth meet to flesh out the concept, but before they've actually started making anything that's supposed to form part of the finished game. There are now 96 people working on the thing versus 422 for The Witcher 4, 49 on multiplayer Witcher spin-off Project Sirius, and 19 for an unannounced original game, Project Hater. So I think in reality, the really bigger news about this is, so yay, verily, the thing got named. And this is kind of funny. I think this is more of a thing in hardware, which is an interesting thing to talk about because we've got the Switch 2 launching this week. But at various points in history, consoles have had a code name, and the makers have tried to tell us that, hey, that code name is not what the thing's actually going to be called when it launches. And then in some cases, that is exactly what it's called. And then in some cases, it's not necessarily called the thing. Like technically, the Xbox Scorpio was technically the Xbox One X, but lots of us continue to call it Scorpio. The controller that the day one editions of that console came with had Scorpio on them. I think the console did too. So like the Scorpio name stuck, even though the official name was One X. Games typically, it's not as big a deal, and like it's kind of patently obvious that the thing was going to be called Cyberpunk 2. Maybe there was maybe there was going to be a year name different from 2077 behind it, or maybe it was going to get a subtitle. I'm not sure, but I think the bigger announcement here is that Cyberpunk 2077 has entered pre-production. And there have been some other comments this week that from pre-production to game release is typically about 4 to 5 years at CD Projekt Red. So most of you will be playing this game in 2030. So, and hopefully it doesn't take another year after launch to get the game right, like it did with Cyberpunk 2077. Any thoughts on this, Tal?
No, yeah. I mean, it's cool that they've entered pre-production, and maybe we'll see this on the next Nintendo system, since the original Cyberpunk is coming out for the Switch 2 soon.
Well, not just Nintendo, right? I mean, what this means is that this Cyberpunk 2 is a next gen title, right? It'll be on the PlayStation 6 and whatever Xbox releases for its hardware next. I think it'll be interesting that it will probably likely come out for handhelds, right? So it'll come out for whatever the successor to the Steam Deck is, and run on the Windows-based handhelds that we're seeing. Whether or not it'll fit onto a Nintendo Switch will be interesting to see. I mean, at that point, the Nintendo Switch 2, we would think and hope, would kind of definitely be on the back half of its life cycle.
Yeah.
I mean, CD Projekt Red, they are the wizards, right? About scrunching a game down small enough for it to run on the Nintendo Switch. And as far as I know, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think they've had to lean on cloud enablement. So when they've put a game on the Switch or on the Switch 2, as far as I think I remember, like I don't think The Witcher 3 on Switch is a cloud supported game.
No, yeah, it's the full game on disc or cartridge, I guess you could say, digital. Yep.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if they can pull that off, or there's nothing to say that by that point in the life cycle, you could say, hey, this isn't going to fit on Nintendo Switch 2, and where it's Nintendo Switch 3 is coming out in 2 years from now, so we're just going to wait.
Yeah.
We'll see. Moving on to news story number 3. This news story over on Video Games Chronicle, or VGC. Elden Ring Nightreign sells 2 million copies on day one as a patch for easier solo play is announced. Elden Ring Nightreign has sold 2 million copies in its first day, publisher Bandai Namco says. A post on the official Elden Ring account on X showed an image saying, "Thank you, 2 million Nightfarers on the first day. Darkness fell over Limefeld, and 2 million Nightfarers rose up against it." The accompanying text reads, "Thank you for your support." As well as the sales milestone, Bandai Namco also confirmed that Nightreign will be getting a patch next week that should make the experience easier for solo players. While Nightreign is designed for 3-player co-op, it can also be played in single player, though the general consensus is that it's much harder going it alone. So it's a thing that this is a single player or a 3-player game. It didn't launch with duos, but that is being patched in. Tao, I can't remember if I know you are a person who likes playing at higher difficulty, but I don't remember if you're a Souls person or not.
I mean, I played Elden Ring a little bit. I didn't get way too far into it, but I wouldn't say I'm a Souls person, but I'll dabble in it a lot more than most genres that I kind of don't like sometimes. But I had played a little bit, I think, of Demon Souls 2 maybe when it was originally released, and I was just kind of like, at the time I was like, I didn't really like it, but Elden Ring I did enjoy the amount I played it. It's just kind of surprising that they didn't have a 2-player. I think I already saw like reports out there that they're already, modders are already, working on that to try to get, a 2-player, patch in there or mod in there for people. But I'm actually kind of surprised my one friend didn't kind of call me up on this one, because I know he originally wanted to play Elden Ring with me, but I had bought it originally on the Xbox Series and he had bought it on PC. So there is no crossplay as far as I could tell, at least at that time. But I'm kind of surprised he didn't call me about this one. But it is a different game though. It's not not your straight up Elden or Souls like as the other ones have been. So, but maybe at some point I'll try it out with him and maybe another friend, or maybe we'll get that mod so we could just be the two of us. But I'll be interested to see how it turns out.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding, and I've been tracking it. I mean, since playing Elden Ring, since playing Clair Obscur Expedition 33, two interests have been rekindled in me. One is playing JRPGs, and the other one is getting back to trying some Souls games for longer than I did. And I played Elden Ring and enjoyed it. I put probably about 8 to 10 hours into it and really loved like exploring the map because I was playing it in a vastly different way than most people were. I had kind of picked a sector of the map that I was focused on exploring and kind of clearing out, in air quotes. And that's why I bounced off of it because there is no clearing out. Elden Ring, like, you're constantly doing stuff over, and I'm like, no, I can't. That doesn't fit, with my lifestyle and how much gameplay time I have, and etc. But I have been tracking this one just out of interest for potentially onboarding into this. It is not central in my radar, but I am kind of keeping an eye out on it. What hasn't pulled me over the lip is I have not heard of any of my friends playing this or getting into it. And I mean, I have a lot of mutuals that are Souls people, and I haven't heard. I've heard some angst about the multiplayer setup and not wanting a multiplayer kind of Elden Ring, but then I mean, I can understand why From Software did this, right? Because you have so many people who had as one of their chief complaints that like the previous iterations of Soul games make playing co-op with people a pain, right? In that people have to be summoned, and then like there's limited time that they can be in the game, and like so this is as far as I can tell, this is you can play the game co-op, right, with a squad. So while those numbers may not be huge of the market that wanted that, there was clearly a demand for it. So whether or not there's enough crossover of people who are willing to stomach the Souls formula with people who want to play with their friends in groups of 3, that I guess we'll see. But 2 million sales right on the first day certainly is not a bad indicator. Let's move on to the next story. And Tal, you want to cover that one?
Yes. This is coming from Game Industry Biz and from Sophie McAvee. I think a beloved game by you, Mr. Game Logic. World Rally Championship, so WRC, is going to be changing not only publishers but also development studios. So right now, I believe, it was owned by EA. And Codemasters had been doing those ones, I think, for the last game or two. But now those rights have been actually brought back to Nacon, I believe is how you say it, which actually had the publishing rights between 2013 and 2022, which during that time they released 9 games in all for that series. But it's actually coming back from 2027 through 2032. They're getting the rights back for WRC. So they'll be making games on PC, developing and publishing games on PC and in console, and they'll be describing it as a complete reboot of the franchise. Quoted from Nacon CEO Elaine Falk. This new venture marks a major milestone, a fully reimagined project driven by a passionate and specialized team with a clear ambition to elevate rally games to new heights. So I saw this and I was like, oh, it's a Game Logic. It's a Game Logic game, so I'm sure he'll be interested to see this. Now I know you said I can't remember if it was this one or one of the other. If it was Dirt, how kind of the newer iterations were kind of a little off from the previous versions. I don't know if it was this series or like I said, the Dirt series. I don't know. You can correct me on that one.
Well, it's kind of both, right? So
Okay.
and thanks a lot for putting this in the rundown. This did come across my radar. I did have it bookmarked and stored kind of in my own personal news tracker, but I didn't put it in the news rundown for tonight. So thank you for inserting it because it's very much a game launching news story. Yeah, the way the DNA on this goes is you have Codemasters who introduced the Dirt series as the Colin McRae series back in like 2000 or 2002. May he rest in peace. And they've been doing they've been doing Dirt iterations for now, over 20 years. They had never, and this is Codemasters when they were not owned by EA, they had never had the official World Rally Championship license from FIA. That had been seeded for most of that time with this company, Nacon, and the game's developer, who's called Kyloton. Codemasters then gets bought by EA, and subsequent to that, backed by EA's very deep pockets, they are able to get the WRC license. And I think they just made an offer at the time when the license came up for renewal with Nacon, and EA was able to offer more money. So that at that moment in time was a super exciting time because you have, if you're a big rally racing game player, which I am, you have what is arguably the preeminent studio in the industry who makes rally games, now having the official WRC license. For whatever reason, Codemasters, and I don't know whether it's on Codemasters or EA or both. It may have just, in Codemasters is, I struggled when I made my list of top 5 developers, my favorite top 5 developers of all time. Codemasters is still in there. I was going to take them out, but I didn't. It may have just been like a very CD Projekt Red moment in time, where CD Projekt Red, who runs that Red engine or whatever it is that that their previous games have been on, and now I think they're shifting to Unreal, just because the engine is long in its tooth and it doesn't really support all the things that they really want to do from an ambition standpoint. And I would definitely argue Bethesda should be doing the same thing because they're still running on that creation engine or iterations thereof. And it has clearly hit its technological limits. And so Codemasters may have hit that moment in time. They tried to, as they got the WRC license, so now the WRC license is now, for that moment in time, is now an extension of the Dirt series. And they tried to flip off of their Ego engine, which is their proprietary in-house engine that they had built before they were bought by EA. They tried to move to Unreal Engine 5, I believe. I think it was UE5. It may have been UE4. I think it was UE5. And they just got bit by all of the problems that the UE5 engine has. And those problems are somewhere in between engine problems and expertise and talent problems, right? So it's a little bit on EA, it's a little bit on developers because we clearly see that people can, like, we have Expedition 33, which is an amazing game done in the UE5 engine. So I don't know any longer that we're at a point where we can entirely put it on EA, on Epic. Some of that has to be, with the development shop and how they go about development and how much support they get, and yada, yada, yada. So, EA's WRC 25, which was the game that they did in UE5, which was in my opinion, a horribly performing game. I won't say it was a horrible game. It just did not hit its markers in terms of technological performance that we have become accustomed to with the Dirt series. And as far as I know, on Steam, it still has pretty negative Steam community reviews. It just never turned the corner to getting right. Yeah, it still has mixed reviews at 62%. So, again, in contrast to something like an Ubisoft game, right, which comes out to like middling reviews, but then gets like super strong Steam community reviews behind it over time. So now the license goes back to Nacon, and they haven't designated the studio that's going to be doing it. I suspect it will be Kyloton. Kyloton, who I loved. I mean, I loved all of these WRC games, and I loved Kyloton. I had the highest hopes for Kyloton. After they lost the license, because they did Test Drive Unlimited Solar Flare, and so there was a great Test Drive Unlimited game on the Xbox, I think 360, where it was like open world and it was set in Hawaii, and I loved that game. And of course, Test Drive Unlimited has a long story history behind it as well. And so I thought, oh, these guys are going to do great. They didn't do great with Test Drive Unlimited. It is really not been received well at all. So stumbles from both sides of the gate. For the studios involved. My hopes are, are that things will turn out better for both studios. F125, which unfortunately I just haven't gotten a chance to get around to yet, appears to be doing well. And yeah, Test Drive Unlimited has mixed reviews as of recent, but they were overall they're mostly negative, and so it launched pretty horribly. And has gotten better. I think that's the best thing that can be said about it. Like usually I like to talk about going from mixed to mostly very or overwhelmingly positive, but quite honestly, scaling from mostly negative to mixed is probably about the same scale. It's not as good news a story, but maybe KT Racing, or I think if I'm not mistaken, KT Racing is short for Kyloton. So maybe they'll turn this thing around and get it right. So sorry to be so long-winded, but this is one of my favorite franchises and series. I mean, I love Dirt, and I also love the WRC games that Kyloton did. And I mean, both games are a driver's delight if you're going to use wheel and pedals and things. Dirt 5 was not great, although it got decent reviews, and that's because there's been a TikTok in the Dirt series at Codemasters where they'll do one version that is kind of the hardcore sim version, and then the next version is kind of their more arcadey version, like for everyone. So Dirt 5 was like their arcadey iteration that launched with the next gen consoles, and so for fans of the longtime series, that was not particularly great, but like I said, it got good reviews and I think sold pretty decently.
Yeah, kind of do like a Forza thing, changing back and forth from year to year. Yeah, I played a little bit of like the Colin McRae games back when they originally first came out, like maybe the first couple, and kind of just fell off after that. But yeah, they were pretty fun though. I liked them. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, in this article they don't say who's going to be developing it, so obviously they don't actually technically have the rights until 2027. So it'll be interesting to see maybe if would EA or Codemasters still be able to. I'm assuming they'd still be able to release one, right? At sometime either this year or next year. Technically,
yeah, they could, but I think the writing is on the wall that they won't, because I believe they cut that studio by 300 people.
Yeah, they mentioned that in this article. Yeah.
Yes, I don't think that they have the people to do it. My belief, though, however, is I'm sure Codemasters is working on something besides just F1. What that is, I don't know. I guess one thing I've never fully understood or I've questioned is you have Codemasters and this was part of my excitement too when Codemasters got purchased by EA. You have Codemasters and you have Criterion. And Criterion has, in my opinion, struggled to. I mean, the Need for Speed franchise has struggled overall to kind of find its identity and its tone. And it's wavered and gone back and forth. And even Criterion has gone back for, like we've talked about with Need for Speed. I've mentioned on the show how the problem with Criterion and Need for Speed is you never know which Criterion is going to show up, right? Are you going to get the Burnout guys? Which to me is not a good fit for Need for Speed, and has proven so over time, even though people got very excited for it when Most Wanted came out. But over time, that Burnout approach has I don't think has stood the test of time. or are you going to get the guys who are the hot pursuit guys, right, where they really nailed it, right, in my opinion. And I'm like, you have both of these studios underneath the same house. Like, why not put them together? Like, Codemasters collaborating with Criterion, in my mind, is an automatic slam dunk to come out with like the most incredible Need for Speed ever. I would think, there was that game on the PlayStation, I think it was called Drive, which was just really technically astute and kind of ahead of its time, that didn't get enough credit. But I mean, I have in my mind a game like that would be rendered, where it's like the Need for Speed approach of, and I'm thinking not a hot pursuit game, more of a pure racing game, not an underground style game, but more of kind of like a Need for Speed 2 high stakes kind of game where you're mostly racing like exotics and stuff, but it is very, 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 rubber, tire rubber physics, asphalt roughage, like just like a great physics engine, like the F1 engine, right, in physics, right, with street racing. Like, seems to me to be an amazing formula, and I don't know why those two studios haven't started dating yet. Like when they both live under the EA umbrella.
Yeah, was that Drive Club? Is that the one you're thinking of? The one from PlayStation?
Yes, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I remember there was kind of a big to do, but then it kind of fell off on that
one. Well, it was one of these games that came out that it was in that and Killer Instinct tried this too, and I think Gran Turismo maybe in one of its iterations, where they've tried to sell these games like heavily oriented around microtransactions, and Forza had its stumbling block, right? Was it Forza 6, I think? That they tried that approach and it just got so bad that finally they just said, "Oh, okay, fine, you can just have everything."
They walked back,
yeah.
Well, I guess they got to try, see what happens.
Okay, you want to take us on to the next news story in the rundown?
Yeah, last news story for tonight. This actually comes back to Rock Paper Shotgun from Brandon Caldwell. Two of the best skating games are back on Steam after being mysteriously pulled from sales a month ago. So the two games in question were Ollie Ollie World and Roller Skate Shooter Roller Dome, which vanished in February of this year after the closure of, not too long after the closure of Roll 7, which is the developer. But it looks like they are finally back on Steam. So evidently they were thinking, it looks like there might have been some kind of legal or business problems with the parent company, which is Take-Two Interactive. And going on the, in the article here, the original developers of the games Roll 7 were owned by publisher Private Division, who in turn were owned by Merciless Corp Colossus, Take-Two Interactive. In May last year, Private Division was sold off by the business and to a private equity firm, and the studio made actually, which is the studio that made actually good games, Roll 7 was sold off, and then they were unceremoniously shut down as a result after they were sold off. The CEO of Take-Two tried to deny this, but the effect on workers at both Roll 7 and other Private Division studios like Kerbal Space Program 2 developers was clear. They were all laid off. So fast forward to this month, I guess technically May, and the games have been relisted under Take-Two, or under 2K, which is Take-Two's publishing moniker, are now listed as the publisher. At the time of the sale, Take-Two said they were including all Private Division live and unreleased games, but they now claim otherwise. Take-Two has confirmed that neither Roller Dome nor Ollie Ollie World were included in the Private Division sale, and that is now the publisher of both games, according to PC World. So it's, I guess that happens, when you sell off companies like that, but it's kind of weird that they wouldn't just leave it up there. But like they said at the beginning of the article, there might have been some legal stuff, maybe the original publisher trying to get, or developer trying to get back the games or something like that. But evidently it did stay with Take-Two, so they are now the publisher. So just kind of a weird, I thought it was kind of a weird situation, but it's good to see that these two games are back. And then kind of at the end of the article, they do kind of give you kind of I don't want to say brain teaser, but kind of a question in your mind, like, do you want to go out and buy these, great games, but they are, from Take-Two, the people that shuttered the original studio down, or do you want to, just kind of, not give them that money, but obviously you're going to miss out on a couple of great games. So it's always, kind of a sticky situation like that. And we've seen other, scenarios where it's like maybe like one or two people just within the studio is, just like a horrible person or something. And, do you want to give these people money, to buy when you buy these games? So just kind of a thought experiment, I guess, on everybody's part on, what they want to do. But just thought it was kind of interesting that they are back in the store now. So I don't know if you had any comments on that one.
No, I mean, obviously, I'm a huge fan of Ollie Ollie World. The year it came out, I'm pretty sure I bought it like on every platform where it was available. I was just checking my Steam library, like I was like, I'm pretty sure I played this game. I remember playing it on console, and I remember definitely playing it on Xbox and on Switch, and then eventually buying it on PlayStation. I was like, I'm pretty sure I played it on PC. I think actually PC is where I started playing it, but yes, it is in my Steam library. So I was interested when this news story broke, back during the original sell-off. I want to say part of my suspicion is that there were maybe clauses or terms where the where the receiving company was, had maybe a time period where it could have bought those properties or something like that and taken over publishing for them. And maybe there were still negotiations that were going on in the background. But whatever it is, at least it came through it, and at least those games are available now. Ollie Ollie World is just, to me, is an amazing game. That is just like, I mean, a great culmination, right, where you see the progression, right, of a game and its design. Just this just steady drumbeat building up to, their capstone release. And so it was a great experience, and it's a wonderfully quirky story, wound into a skating game. So hopefully, people will go out and buy it.
Yeah, I never played that one. I did play the original, though, just Ollie Ollie, which was, I think, coming from like Skate and Tony Hawk and all those other games, it was a little jarring going to like a 2D skate game because it's like way different, obviously in controls and stuff. It took me a little while to get used to it, but yeah, I enjoyed the first one, so I definitely would want to play World at some point.
All right. Well, that does it for the news. Let's go on and go into what is normally our wrap up, but it is the only gameplay debrief or briefing section for tonight. And so I think it'll probably follow a scale that's probably bigger than normally our wrap up. But let's go ahead and get into it. I will start the debriefs with as I mentioned before, I have been playing a Call of Duty Black Ops 6 on PC. They did, to close out season 3, they did back-to-back double XP weekends. They did one double XP weekend over Memorial Day weekend with promotion and weapon double XP, and then they came back the following weekend and did battle pass double XP. I didn't finish the battle pass just because I got very disillusioned with Call of Duty at the beginning of season 3, and I don't think I came back to it until like halfway through the season. And in particular, like as season 2 closed out, one of the reasons I fell off was because I just timing wise, I same thing. Like it was in those last waning days of the season, and I just felt like I felt like I had to play the game, which is always historically what I always like was why I was never a big MMO player, right? Because I just felt like way before battle passes and stuff, like I never got into any type of subscription based game before because I always felt like what that's going to do is that's going to cause me to feel like I'm obligated to play the game for some number of hours per month, and I hate doing that because of the way that I play games. But I have done battle passes and I get it, right? And I'm with that shtick, and usually it's fine when I'm just like, that's my grind, right? And I'm into it. But I definitely fell off of it, and then picked it back up kind of in the middle of season 3. I think I am on board for the long haul now, and so I bought the battle pass for season 4, and I'm back into it. It's kind of weird. Two aspects that make it weird. There are 3 new maps for season 4. I have not gotten cycled into any of those new maps, I don't think. But the other thing that's weird is there were also I think 2 new maps at least for season 3 Reloaded, and I haven't gotten cycled into any of those either. There was a map called, the only one that has come across my windshield, there's a map, I think it's season 3, called Barrage, and I was about to get cycled into a map for that, and then like I got disconnected, or the game crashed, or something happened. Something came up where I wound up not being cycled in that match. So I think in the wake of like 5 new maps being released, I have yet to play on any of the new maps that I can remember. But the other thing that's kind of weirder that has been going on is there's a lot of discussion online. I think Charlie Intel put out a tweet this week that like season 4 has been a horrible launch, and there's problems and crashes and blah blah blah. And I'm like, and I hate to say it, but I'm going to be that guy right for this instance to say, I haven't seen any of that. Right? I haven't personally been impacted, and I've seen some people say attribute that problem to Microsoft being the overseer of Call of Duty now, and I'm kind of like, I don't think that tracks, because if you play Call of Duty, if I've been back since Modern Warfare now. It's now 6 years, right, that I've been going on playing pretty steadily over the last 6 years. That first of all, the greatest risk to your continuity in the game is at season turnover, right? Your second biggest risk is at Reloaded, right? If things are going to go endemically, chronically wrong, it will happen when season turn, right? Because that's change, right? And in software development, whenever you inject change, that's your biggest risk of being presented, right, a new problem. It's kind of one of my things that aggravates me in software development is when something goes wrong and I ask people, so who changed things? And people say, nobody changed anything. I'm like, okay, well that's not possible because it was working before and it's not working now. So, and generally it goes one of 3 ways, right? At season, particularly at season turnover. There's a 1/3 chance that it will go swimmingly and there will be no problems. There's a 1/3 chance that there will be problems and you either will or won't be affected, right? And I think my belief has been that is because of the cloud and data center centric manner in which the Call of Duty fabric is deployed. And so when you have these problems, I believe that they will typically tend to be regional, associated with whatever AWS zone you're in, right? Or that there will be a cluster of servers that will be like problematic, right? And didn't take the upgrade or didn't take the rollout or something like that. Or the other third, there's a 33% chance that things will be bad and they will be bad for everyone, right? So right now, as far as I can tell, this is one of those 1/3 chances where maybe there are some problems going on, but I'm not personally being impacted. I've been able to play fine. I haven't been disconnected from matches. I haven't taken a long, spawn time or anything like that. I just haven't seen any problems with season 4. And I definitely don't attribute those problems to Microsoft because, again, if you've been playing Call of Duty for a long time, Activision is very capable of screwing this up. And I don't think it's screwing them up. I just think it's the problems that are associated with trying to operationalize literally the largest multiplayer gaming franchise on the planet, right? And the percentage likelihood that things are going to go wrong. If there had been something like a ton of the layoffs had been targeted at Activision and their operation staff was trying to operate at 50% capacity or 75% capacity, that I could understand, but we haven't seen anything that tracks on that. So I think this is just normal Call of Duty stuff. I don't know, Tal, have you been continuing to play? Have you gotten into Warzone at all?
No, I haven't. I still haven't gone back to Warzone. I think I played a little when 6 came out originally, but I haven't really played past those few, times that I did when it first came out. Going back to, and I haven't played the new season yet. I haven't played 4 yet. Going back to 3 though, real quick. Season 3, there were actually 5 new maps. Well, 6 technically, I guess. But the 6th one is just a redone Nuketown version, so that was just a limited one. But there's 5 other maps, which I've only played 2 of those: Barrage, like you said, and then Haven. I'm sorry, 3: Haven, and then they re-released Firing Range, which was a classic Black Ops map from back in the day. It was actually one of my favorite maps, so that's why I jumped back into it during season 3. But then there's Signal and Nomad. I have not seen those maps at all, so it looks like they're kind of smaller maps. So I would figure they'd come up in the rotation, but I never saw those at all. So
Well, and you're saying 5 or 6 over the entirety of season 3, right?
the whole season 3. Yeah, I think there was 3 released at the beginning, and then there's 2 at the kind of the halfway point.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. When I said 2, I was talking about during the Reloaded.
Okay.
So yeah, and so maybe some of those maps are mode specific. I would say the one nit I do have with how things are going in Call of Duty right now is there's such a high propensity in the rotation for you to get popped onto a face-off map that and face-off is fine. It is super intense. It is sweaty as all heck. But the bigger problem too is that there are no score streaks on face-off maps. So the other night I was playing and I was like, I haven't used a score streak like all night. I'm like, oh, well, that's because I'm constantly on face-off maps. So that is a little, and again, maybe that's part of that is, the filters that I specifically have set on matchmaking. But I'm not going to. I'll be the last person to ask for more Hacienda in the rotation, but let's let's get some greater propensity in the rotation. I have played Blaze Town, so if that's one of the new maps,
yeah, that was one. That was a limited time one.
That's no real change to Nuketown. Like it's literally it's just the background music.
Yeah, and I think some of the coloring on the buses
on the buildings, yeah,
on
the buses,
yeah.
Just, I will say I have not run into any player wearing that Seth Rogen skin who is not a complete jerk. that has been consistent while I've been playing.
Yes, that was quite a shock when I loaded up and I saw that Seth Rogen was in there, which it makes sense too. I guess that's because they even had what's his name, Kevin Smith, and what's the character from Clerks?
Yeah, well, not the character, but the actor. It's Kevin Smith and whoever, I can't remember the guy.
Yeah, the other guy,
partner.
They had those 2 guys in their their Clerks characterizations. So I was like, oh, that makes sense too. Okay, like they had Snoop Dogg. I remember in last year's Call of Duty. So this kind of makes sense. But yeah, it's I actually completely forgot that season 4 was starting this week. So because I got distracted by other games, but I definitely want to jump in there, try the new season, the new maps. Yeah, assuming they come up.
Yeah, I'll say the one other thing is I'm pretty sure. So I read in an article that there was supposed to be a new mode this season. That there was supposed to be like an elimination mode, and so it was going to play. I mean, it's going to sound like a battle royale. I think of it more as an elimination mode, like you have in a racing game. But there was supposed to be this kind of elimination mode on arena maps where, I'm guessing that after some number of times of being taken out, you're dropped out of the competition, and it continues winding down until you get down to the last 2 players. But I haven't seen that in the rotation. I haven't seen that in the filters. So I don't know if that was an article that was maybe written in the run up, and maybe that mode got pulled, or maybe I just don't. The name of the mode isn't jumping out at me. But I was looking for it in the filters and I didn't see it. So that would be an interesting mode. I think that would be kind of a neat thing to bring that kind of battle royale-ism into the arena maps. So we'll see if they do eventually roll that out. I'm not sure what happened with that mode.
Okay, it's just like a limited amount of respawns or something. Then
that's what I'm guessing. I'm guessing it was not as harsh as like one death and you're out. I'm assuming that it's something like 5 deaths, right, and you're out, and it
Yeah.
keeps going down till you get down to the last 2 players or something.
Yeah, the one little nitpick I will say that you mentioned the filters is like I have my filter set. I think I have like 4 filters right now. That the four modes I like to play normally, most of the time. But every time they like add a new game or like maybe every couple of weeks where they add a new mode or something, like they like just add it automatically. I'm like, no, I don't want this. Like,
Yeah,
why am I?
you have to check it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
There's
have my
been a bunch of
filter.
times where I'm like, what? Why am I playing this mode? I'm like, what the heck is
Right.
this?
Yeah, I have my filter set where there's 10 of the 16 modes that I have clicked, because I always click like whenever there's like a map mosh pit one
Yeah,
that is map specific. I will include that, or 10v10. Whenever there's a mosh pit. And so, but yeah, like this season started and it was like 11 of 16. And I was like, okay, what are they pulling in? And it's always something weird, like headquarters or something that I never play. And I'm like,
yeah.
why are they doing that? So yeah, it's new modes, but then it's also at season change. And just like I said, look, you have to keep your eyes out like when there's big changes, because
Yeah.
things will go wonky.
Screw your filters. I don't like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there was.
I'll try new modes like when they put them out there. Like Overdrive, that was one of them that I added onto my
Yeah, I
list. And
added that
that's
too.
cool. Like I like it. But yeah, it's like come on, just don't do it automatically.
Yeah, there was a glitchy period of time. I will say in the second to last week of season 3, where like it seemed like one of the weapons was glitched. Like whatever loadouts I had tagged for that weapon, whenever I would pick it, it would load some other weapon as the primary weapon in the loadout. I was like, is this weapon glitched? It was something like a marksman rifle or maybe one of the assault rifles or something. It was just super weird because I had that weapon equipped for like 2 loadouts. I was getting the same behavior on either loadout. So it eventually settled out, but that was kind of a weird thing. I don't know if that's like a week where they had like pulled a weapon or something, but I don't know. It was weird. You have been playing Disney Dreamlight Valley, so let's talk about that.
Yeah, yeah. These first 2 games I'll talk about. I played basically at the beginning of the week, like Monday, Tuesday ish. Disney Dreamlight Valley, though, I kind of sprinkled a little bit throughout the week. Mostly, though, I played it like a Monday and Tuesday. I just jumped back into that. I think I mentioned it a couple weeks ago when I was on, just kind of looking for little, cozy game, little palette cleanser, from all the FPSs and hero shooters and all these other games that I play, kind of fast paced and all that. Just kind of chill gameplay. Just Animal Crossing, but with Disney characters, and yeah, just having fun with it. Just trying to open up at different areas. I've kind of jumped back. I think when you're playing this, like there's these kind of walled off or thorned off, because like these thorns that kind of grew up along this map that you have to unlock, and you unlock it with the in-game money. So when I originally started playing, I was just trying to unlock as many of those as I could, like right away. But then I was kind of not doing like my regular quests, which actually does help with that anyways. So I was like, all right, let me just go back and I'll just do my quests that you get from the characters that you interact with. You start off with the basics like Mickey and Donald and stuff like that. But now I've gotten like Wally, and I've gotten one of the guys. I think his name Olaf. No, not Olaf. It's one of the characters from Frozen. It's the male character. I never saw the movie, so I'm not sure what I can't remember what his name is. But I got him. I've got I think like the wizard from Merlin. Or not Merlin. It's Merlin from the Sword and the Stone, stuff like that. So kind of, there's a lot of mix of older the older Disney movies and the newer stuff like Pixar and stuff like that. So I think they do like special things. I don't know. I'm assuming like quarterly, just like every other kind of service game like this does. So I just going back and just concentrating on each character. Like I've done with my other games. I don't know why it was different at first with this one, but and just trying to like go through and go, get as many other requests as I can to kind of just finish those characters off. So, and some of the characters they do things for you, like there's Scrooge McDuck in there you can do quests for, and he actually has a shop within the world where you can buy like just like different clothing or furniture or stuff, or just whatever. He's kind of like the Tom Nook basically, which I guess makes sense. That's Scrooge McDuck, because Tom Nook kind of gypped you on stuff sometimes. So he has all the different accessories and stuff you can get for your house, and you can to help build up your house and stuff like that. And then Goofy, he's kind of like the I guess like shopkeeper of just like all the other ingredients and or crafting stuff that you need, so you can open up. As you level him up, you get more stuff that you can buy from him or sell to him. So just kind of concentrate on doing that kind of stuff. So still having fun with it. It's like I said, it's just Animal Crossing with Disney characters, so it's actually kind of nice just to chill on that. And then the next game, you got a question or a comment on that? No. And then the next game is Doom: The Dark Ages. So I was playing that once again early in the week. Finally got past the village, which is like the first kind of, I guess, tutorial level that you play. I got past that boss, and I'm on to the next. I don't know, it's like a castle or something that you start off in. It's like an indoor area. And then before then, I think I mentioned this too last couple weeks ago, where they kind of give you some lore. There's like cutscenes and stuff, which is actually pretty cool. And so it's kind of interesting story, at least so far, because it looks like Mr. Doomslayer may not be of his own accord, at least at the beginning of the game. So it's kind of interesting to see that. And just I'm actually stuck on a part right now where I have it on, like I think I mentioned I had it on the whatever the medium difficulty setting is. I've gotten to this point where I'm just getting like absolutely like destroyed, and I think I have to use some of the other weapons now. Like I've basically, and I think we talked about this too last time. Basically just using the shotgun like all the time. But I think I have to use some, like I got like an energy weapon now, along with that. It's like shoots out stakes. It's like another kind of weapon I got a little bit early on in the game. So I think I have to start using that energy weapon though a little bit more, because it seems to kind of destroy the enemies a little bit faster than just a shotgun or that stake gun. But yeah, it's still a ton of fun. Still, like I like the mix of kind of being, and I never played the original, or well, I shouldn't say the original, the 2016 Doom. Maybe like a demo, maybe back in the day, but I did play a little bit more of Eternal when that came out, and Eternal just seemed too hectic for me, and this one seems maybe kind of like a in between. Like there's kind of hectic areas, but then there's kind of just straightforward. Like, hey, I can just shoot people like I'm going down a hallway or something. It's not too chaotic. So, but I'm in one of those sections right now where it's like there's like all kinds of stuff coming at me from like almost every which way. So I just got to figure out like my positioning in that level or that kind of section, because you kind of get. I think you jump down off of something, and then there's like energy shields that pop up, so you can't go back to where you came from, at least not right away. So I'm kind of stuck there. I'm just getting overwhelmed, but I'm still having a ton of fun with it. It's just pure just shooter fun. So I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Has your experience kind of smoothed out, settled out, or gotten better? And I don't know where our patch has been released where, we talked about when the game released that like there is no option to turn off ray tracing, right? So people on 3000 series cards with 8 gigabytes of VRAM, are going to be impacted negatively, right, in terms of performance. And you mentioned that was an issue that you were not pleased about. Has that gotten better, or?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because I forgot to mention that. Yeah, when I booted up finally back on my PC, because I had been playing mostly on my Xbox because it ran fine there, but I didn't get a chance to play on the PC. And yeah, it's running smoother now. I haven't had any issues. I think I still have the settings pretty low though. I don't think I changed, because I think the last time I played on PC, I just lowered pretty much everything to whatever the low. Well, maybe not the lowest setting, but like the next one up. But I didn't change anything this time, and it was running smooth, so and it looked good. So I didn't have any stuttering or like I mentioned, like when I first turned on the game on my PC originally, it was just like a slideshow. Like I couldn't do anything, so that's why I had to turn everything down. But yeah, now everything's running smooth. So they must have patched some stuff up, and I haven't had a chance to go back in the settings though to see if I can maybe slowly start to bump things up and just kind of test the waters to see how far I can go. But I'll probably have to do that the next time I play.
Yeah, it looks like they have released 2 patches. They refer to them as small game patches, one on the 13th and one on the 14th. So I don't know if that maybe helped improve performance on some NVIDIA cards.
Yeah, some older ones.
Yeah, no, that's good though that they're getting after that.
Yeah, yep, definitely. And then finally, last game, I jumped back into Marvel Rivals, which I started playing there at the end of the week, this past week, a little bit over the weekend, and I have a lot of time to game this past couple days. But the mid-season of season 2 A big update came out, which brought a new map level, and then it brought Ultron, which he's an strategist, aka healer, as they like to call it, called all the healer strategists in Marvel Rivals. So I played maybe a half a dozen games with him, and I don't know, kind of the jury's still out, at least with me, on how he is. He kind of seems more of maybe behind the lines, behind your side of the team's support. Because some of the strategists you can kind of jump into the fray too, and along with along with all the others, DPS and stuff, and kind of hold your own. But Ultron is his kid is a little weird. He's mostly healing, obviously, which is kind of strange to me. Since I don't know, I think you brought up this kind of question when Marvel Rivals first started off, was seeing these characters in these different type of roles. Is it going to be strange? And I think this is the first one that's kind of strange to me. Like Ultron's a healer. That's really weird. And like I said, his kit's mostly healing, other than even his like ultimates better suited for healing. Like you heal, I think it was like 500 like points of health a second or something like that, or every couple seconds. So it's, and you still do damage to people. Like if you hit him with the ultimate, it's basically just like these like Ultron clones come out and you're just like shooting. Basically, it's like a kind of a big beam. And if anything other than a tank, you can take out. But it's the kind of focused beam, so you kind of only taking like one person at a time, and it's ultimates don't last forever, obviously, so it's going to be pretty short. But yeah, it's just kind of weird. I think it's just getting used to what he is. He's more, like I said, the ultimate's going to be more of a heal thing. Maybe kind of like when you're pushing and everyone's getting hit, you can pop that and keep everybody alive, because it's going to heal the DPS and the other healers pretty much almost full health pretty much right away on one hit. So tanks might take a couple of hits, but it's going to keep them alive. So yeah, it's just, I got to get used to him. Still pretty cool. He's a flying character too, which is kind of weird. The flying healer. But his main is basically just like a laser beam shot, fairly strong. It kind of shoots out, and there's like a couple of pulses, and then there's like a big burst at the end. So like you really have to aim, be on your aim to get people. It does kind of chunk them down, if you got good aim. But yeah, like I'm still a jury's out on him. I got to play him a little bit more to see how he is. Maybe even watch some videos. This is one of the rare games where I actually jump out and look at YouTube videos, see, how to play people sometimes, because I just like, there's so many characters. There's like over, let's see, what is there now? 30, started with 33, 37, so 38, 30. So I think there's like 39 now, 38 or 39 characters and all. So I've played a good chunk of them. I haven't played all of them yet. Maybe just like some of the characters you can use Loki to actually become another character, and I've probably done every character because of doing that. And sometimes I just don't do it on purpose. Like I'm not aiming, like I aim wrong or whatever, and I hit the wrong person. But in all, I've probably played at least 3/4 of them, a good chunk. So it's a lot too, but I'm glad I like jumped in right away, because obviously that many characters, like right, even at 33 right at the beginning was like, holy cow, like there's so many people. And coming off doing like an Overwatch or something, like where I literally just played one person the whole time. It was Reinhardt. I think maybe I played Soldier, what's his name, 76 or 7 or whatever that guy named, kind of every once in a while, just because he was a shooting guy, so I kind of was comfortable with him. But here I'm actually dipping my toes into playing multiple people and trying to get good, at least with a couple people with each, in each category. So it's just been interesting.
Okay, very cool. My other two games that I've been playing, one was Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Vegas 2. And so I had on my list to revisit and go back and play some of the Rainbow Six games. I have been trying to get them to run on modern PCs. And just real quick, Tao, one thing I meant to ask you: Doom: The Dark Ages. Are you playing the Steam version of that, or the Game Pass version?
Game Pass.
Okay. And so Rainbow Six, and like I've been playing Rainbow Six games since Rogue Spear, so since like the second game came out, And that was like 1999. And I have been unsuccessful getting pretty much any of those games to run like in a stable fashion. There's always some weird like on Vegas, like the game literally runs like too fast. And so on a couple of games, it's been that like the GPU just like whatever clock normalization thing that was supposed to go on because the GPU or CPU clock speeds are just way higher than anything that was originally imagined when the game came out. Just causes instability. So I haven't been able to get any of them to run well. Rainbow Six Vegas, the first one, is a game that proves to have not stood the test of time. I think like how we felt about that game was very robust when that game originally dropped on the 360. But just uh, so I did get Vegas 2 to run successfully. And despite the fact that it has there's no FOV slider on that game. The FOV is very crunchy, and this is similar to my feelings about like when I went back and tried to play like Killzone 2 way back in the day, where the FOV isn't just so tight that like it's amazing that it doesn't cause motion sickness, right, when you're moving around on the map. But and originally when I got it running and was gonna play it, I was like, I am probably gonna stick with this for like one mission, like 30 to 45 minutes, and then I'm out. I actually did wind up playing like a 2 hour session or so, and got it, 2 missions in. It was not as bad. The mouse aiming and stuff was not jerky like it was when I tried to play Vegas. So I'll probably stick with it, just kind of in the backlog, on a slow rotation, nibbling at it here and there. It's fun for a nostalgia romp. It pales in comparison in a lot of ways to a lot of the functionality that games provide today, like when you look at Ready or Not. But it was fun. It was fun going back to revisit it.
So quick question. So, and it just goes back for the other games too. The older games. So, did you already? So are these coming just off your Steam account, or did you? Are you? It's kind of a weird question, but are you trying to actually like load them from like the original physical media?
Oh no! I don't have any I don't have any physical
Okay.
media left anymore. Yes, these are digital versions on the Steam account. Yeah, I mean, the sad state of Steam is the realism is there's often touting that PC has kind of ubiquitous backwards compatibility, but there are games on Steam that like run poorly on new hardware, or in some cases will not run at all, and will still be getting sold on Steam. And so you really have to check like the negative reviews and stuff that come out about that stuff, to make sure you're not finding like a game that just does not run. And there are things you can do to make it run, but like look, when the wiki or the Reddit threads or whatever are about like going into a game file and like making updates, at that point like I'm out. Like I'm like, yes, I could do that, but I don't have time to be bothered with that. And I'll just say la vie, and this game will live on in my memories. But Vegas 2 wasn't that bad, and it's been fun. It's been fun playing it. The weapons variety is, I mean, it's one of those games where, and I was listening to a podcast last week or in the last 2 weeks, and they were mentioning how the the endemic problem in the design of like of a game where you can like pick up a weapon, is you're always kind of caught in this momentary like anxiety loop of like you're picking up this weapon and you're like, is this weapon better than what I'm already carrying? Like, is the next part of the map going to be better suited to like this weapon? And so in games where you can pick up weapons instead of there being like weapons progression, that creates a thing. And so I on the one mission that I was on, I picked up some like light machine gun, and I'm like, I don't, am I with no silencer, and I'm like, okay, so is the next part of this mission going to be one where you kind of can go in loud, right? Because things just kind of come off the cuff, or is it a game where you need your weapon with the silencer? So there's that, and there's not as much of, and that's the game. Vegas and Vegas 2 had the system where like there's crates like mid-level, and so you can access them to like swap out equipment. Um, but and Vegas 2 has some setup where you can change equipment out like at the beginning of the mission, but it's a lot of times it's like while you're proceeding towards the insertion point, so it's not the same as having like a planning session like you did in the older Rainbow Six game. So it's fine. It does have terrorist hunt in it, like in the old fashioned style. So actually, I'm playing through the campaign now, but I'm actually looking forward to just getting some time to run some old fashioned terrorist hunt sessions in it as well. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Just real quick, I was about to ask you, like the original, like Rogue Spear and the ones before that, those were more just like more like Ready or Not, really. Like there's a situation going on, like there's Ready or Not's a little bit more probably fleshed out, more bigger maps, but it was just, hey, there's a room full of hostages or whatever, or for terrorists, you got to take them out. The Vegas series was more, I won't say Call of Duty, but it was more, they're kind of pushing you like from section to section within the level, right? Like it was more corridor type ish.
Yeah, there was definitely an inflection point when in Rainbow Six games that come to console before, but like Rainbow Six Vegas and Rainbow Six Vegas 2 were really like console centric, right, releases. The original older titles on PC were really about like expecting people to be on mouse and keyboard and expecting them to have like a wide array of tools to look at overhead maps and coordinate with other teammates. And there's a lot more of an expectation of like co-op and multiplayer in terms of like in the PC environment. So yeah, I mean the big differences were, and the things that I used to always lament were, Rogue Spear, Lockdown, Raven Shield. They had this mission planning session where you could go in, you could pick teams, you could outfit them. You could have like kit configurations so that were saved in save lists. So you could say, have this team use this kit, have that team use that kit. There were I want to say there were Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and I think Echo, like go points that you could put on the map. So you could say, hey, Team Bravo, go to this point and wait till I give you the Alpha go code, right? And then you would hit this on the keyboard, you would hear the character say, Alpha go, and so you could coordinate multi-team stuff a little better. On console, you could kind of do that, but like in Vegas 2, I don't know if you remember, like you could, it was you and two other AI teammates. So you could send the other two teammates to another door. You could stack up at a door. You could snake cam, underneath the door in real time. And then you could, in the moment, like give the team the code to breach the room, right? And then you could come in from the other side. And so in the other games, it was more a matter of like you could pre-plan that. So there was some loss of fidelity, some design improvements though, in the terms of some things were made more convenient, right, when they kind of became console-centric titles. But I definitely miss, the original games, and yeah, they're a little bit more tactical. It's like in the vein of Ready or Not. The last game I've been playing is I also started or went back to my run in The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, which is just a game that I've probably started 99 bajillion times and like have never stuck with. So I was actually it was actually interesting when I went back that my game save was still there from the most recent time that I tried to go back to it. And so I was like, am I going to start over? And I said, no, let me just pick up from where. And The Witcher 3 is one of those games that like I don't like going back after a long layoff and just trying to dynamically pick up in the middle of the dance, but I just went ahead and went with it. That is a game save that apparently I had started a new run because where the game save was when you fight the Griffin, and I was like, well, I've definitely fought the Griffin before and like past this point. So But yeah, it started to run. What's interesting is I need to talk to some. I have a few friends who like play The Witcher 3 like all the time, um, and I don't want to say the graphical enhancements and options that I saw this time were updated and different than the last time I played this. There were ray tracing options, DLSS options, some other things that I don't think I've historically seen in this game before. So, I mean, so The Witcher 3 recently hit an anniversary, and there were, announcements about like it's sold north of 60 million copies now. And so now, like, The Witcher 3 and I think Skyrim are the two like biggest selling RPG titles ever. Both of them are somewhere north of 60 million units for both. Um, and so maybe there was like a patch or something that came out for The Witcher 3 on that anniversary. Or maybe those things have been there before and I just hadn't played in a while to notice them. But the game, I mean, for as long as the game was released ago, it with those graphical enhancements, particularly, it's still a really great looking game. Not super performant. I played it on I was playing it on an RTX 4070 Super tonight. It was getting frame rates, frames in the upper 70s to 90s, um, which is fine for a newer game. But even with the ray tracing and stuff, like it's an older game, I would expect to be getting well north of that. I mean, I get frames in the 120s right for newer games. So it may be a matter of those things have been implemented, but like haven't been like particularly well optimized for newer hardware or any hardware really in the PC space, and they may have just been implemented, but not necessarily like I said, super well optimized. But it's interesting and it's neat, that they installed, that they instantiated all those things. So having fun with it. I think in the past I've also previously tried, for whatever reason, tried to play The Witcher 3 on mouse and keyboard. Of late, I've been playing a lot more third-person games than I normally would have, like, unless it is a strict third-person shooter like the Division 2. I've been playing a lot more of them on controller, whereas historically I've been like, if I'm on PC, I'm playing mouse and keyboard, unless it just like doesn't make sense. But more and more of the recent releases have definitely been crossing that threshold where like their gameplay style, like it doesn't make sense to try and play them with mouse and keyboard, like Monster Hunter and South of Midnight, and some other games. I've just more and more and more I'm finding that I am just pulling out a controller and leaving it right at a PC, whereas in the past I've always like stuff them back in a drawer because I didn't use controllers that frequently on PC. But I'm finding more and more that that's a paradigm, that I'm using if I'm not on a specialized controller like a flight control system or wheel and pedals. So I think, which is fine, right? Because it's also, while I have preferred mouse and keyboard, it's also always been kind of a bit of friction. Like I like consciously knew I was kind of fighting the natural inherent design, right, of the game and the developer. So maybe I'm just hitting that point where I'm okay giving up and just playing those games on controller. So significant. So that's it for our game report out debriefs. For major releases next week. So look, I didn't populate anything in the significant releases this week because I didn't feel there was anything significant coming out this week. The Nintendo Switch is obviously dropping, but like if you go to a new release list, you will find like 30 something titles because lots of these sites are listing like everything that's coming to Switch 2, including like enhancement game packages and upgrade packages. And like, okay, if somebody's bought a Nintendo Switch 2, they know where to find the release list for the launch. So I don't think we needed to mention it. Dune Awakening is coming out next week as well. If you are an MMO type player, I did not personally put that down on the significant releases list because I feel like me and like 10 other people are aware of Dune Awakening coming out next week that are really tracking it. And I'm still waiting for it to hit the inflection point where it catches enough of my interest for me to be willing to invest time in it. And then Tao, you had one game that you listed. I'll let you go ahead and brief that one out.
Yeah, that was Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma. which is coming out for both the original Switch and Switch 2, but also coming out for PC. So Rune Factory is a big like cozy game, I guess you can call it. Farm sim monster kind of hunting. Not I should say monster hunting, but you can battle in it too. Besides doing all the other kind of like cozy stuff. So I know, and Rune Factory is a fairly popular um, series out there. So yeah, I just thought I'd put that up there too.
All right, very cool. Next week we should be live at the same bat time, same bat channel. Tao will be in the seat as the primary host, and DBQ and myself will be backing him up as co-hosts. What were you mentioning, Tao?
Yeah, I was going to say, hopefully with a lot of news because Summer Games Fest starts this week. And then we'll have, which ends with, I think, Sunday with Xbox. They have the 2 directs, just the regular game showcase and then the Outer Worlds 2 direct that they're going to have. But then through the week, they'll have the Summer Games Fest, like opening night, where it's basically like an E3, what E3 used to be, where they do a bunch of announcements. And there'll be, obviously, Devolver Digital Direct and PC Game Direct, Future Games, all those other directs that they do during that time. So we should have a lot to talk about next week. So
yeah, we haven't really talked about it behind the scenes yet, but we may need to look at doing something special for Summer Game Fest coverage. The other interesting thing that's going on, it's going to be interesting to see kind of reactions going into Summer Game Fest because we've got the Switch 2 dropping. But there's also the PlayStation Days of Play, and from the telemetry that I'm seeing already, I think there's been a significant number of PlayStations being sold just because of the weird dynamic of the sale and rampant fear in the US about impending price increases from tariffs. I think that's causing a big bubble right in PlayStation sales that were kind of unanticipated in this time frame. So it's going to be interesting to see if I think there's going to be a lot more interest, right, and excitement and discussion around Summer Games Fest than there has been over the past few years. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how it goes down. And yeah, we may need to talk behind the scenes about how we're gonna cover that. But either way, it should be a good time. So until next time, take care of yourselves. Stay safe out there. Play the games that you like. Come here to talk to us about the games that you love. Once again, my name is Game Logic for the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube. One of the co-hosts of the Enough to Keep Going Weekly Games podcast here on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube. Here joining me tonight has been Towmaster99. Until next time, good night, good luck, and good gaming. That's going to do it for us. We're out of here.